Hey guys, what's up? This is my first video post Wayfair. So basically, we're just doing a Citrix training here for the CCA-V uh, certificate, and this is the first lab that they have you work through. This is the deploying the delivery controller in a virtualized environment. So I did go ahead and activate this lab with the training credit and just working through it right here. We do have a lab guide that accompanies this lab, which I will not be showing on the screen. But essentially, what we're doing right now is we've ensured that our initial hosts are running in Microsoft Hyper-V, and we are using Remote Desktop Connection Manager to remote to the server that we're setting up as our delivery controller. So we're basically right in that setup. There are a few discrepancies so far in the lab from what the lab guide indicates. The first is that the Citrix LTSR 1912 is not available in the lab files, so in the lab resources share right here, instead of 1912, you have 2203. The second is that once you've gone through and launched that, and started the virtual apps and desktop session, after clicking on delivery controller, the VM actually required a restart, and I had to relaunch the 2203 wizard again. So we're going to go back through that process. So this is technically my second time clicking on the delivery controller option, but I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And we will proceed to the section where we select our services. Well, let's just check that. Oh, it's working now. So, what the hell, man? So now it's working. It might have had something to do with not launching the wizard as an admin the second time around. I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna proceed from step 7 onwards. So we'll agree to the software license agreement, and we're gonna select every component except for the license server and storefront, which it looks like we don't even have storefront listed on here. So we just need to have delivery controller, studio, and director. Features, we do not want, let's see. So we want delivery controller, studio. Okay, so it's explaining like why we're selecting studio and director. We're not selecting the license server because the license server was pre-configured for the lab, and it's probably on a separate host. And we're deselecting storefront because we're going to deploy storefront on a separate server. So on the features page, clear the install Microsoft SQL 2017. So we don't need SQL, probably because we're going to put it on a different server, but we do need Windows Remote Assistance. Click next. Machine is less than recommended minimum of 5 gigabytes RAM. That shouldn't be coming up, but we're gonna just proceed. Oh wait, it looks like, yeah, they intentionally didn't allocate that much. Minimum RAM message is a recommendation only, not a requirement. Okay, it's based on real world delivery controller load. Alright, firewall page. Leave the default automatically selected and click next. Summary page, we verify that we selected the core components, delivery controller, studio, and director, and then, let's see, unless you specify the location, virtual paging register. Okay, so we're good. Click install. So it looks like the installation is going to take a couple minutes to complete. We'll cut back once it's completed. Oh, it looks like it's installing localhost cache storage by default. It just doesn't enable the feature by default. Man, if this install takes too much longer, we're gonna run out of time for this lab. Looks like we're on step 12, and we need to complete a couple more pages of steps, honestly, to get this thing running. So it's just interesting because I'm already logged into this this VM as an admin, so. Key takeaways: installation wizard can rapidly deploy all components required for a small deployment. However, Citrix recommends keeping different roles separated in a production environment. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's exactly what we're doing. That's why we unchecked some of those roles. Okay, so we're gonna reconnect to, okay, so we've completed option 1, so let's go. So we need to, okay, so skipping down to create and configure the site. Delivery controller has been installed. When you start the primary Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop Management Console, Citrix Studio, on the new delivery controller, an option presents itself to create a new site. So we'll need to, we've already reconnected to the delivery controller, and we need to start Citrix Studio. Use Citrix Studio to create a new CCA-V site. To start the wizard to create the site, under Site Setup, click Deliver Applications and Desktops to your users. Site is a name you give to a CCA-V deployment. Site is comprised of the delivery controllers and other components such as the VDAs, machine catalogs, DGs, and more, which you will deploy and administer this in future exercises. Verify on the intro page that the default value, a fully configured production-ready site, is selected. Site name is going to be site, uppercase, -New York. Click Next. Database page, we're going to create and set up a database from Studio. And then under the database details section, we'll leave the default database names for each database type and enter NYC. Okay, so nyc-sequel-001.workspacelab.com and each corresponding location box. I'm just going to copy and paste these. Click Next. Okay, the guide is talking something about like creating the like what AD permissions, what account permissions are needed to actually create these databases from Studio. It just reminding you that in your environment you may not have permissions to the SQL server to create these databases from Studio. You have to use one of the other options that they mentioned, either using the deployment scripts that you can give to the DB team, or there's another option, but I can't remember what it is offhand. Okay, licensing. Licensing page, enter host name and network port of Citrix license server, which is nyc-fsr001.workspacelab.com. Click connect. Could not connect. Oh, because of untrusted certificate. Click connect me and then click confirm. Select to use the free 30-day trial for the production version and then click next. Makes sense because we don't have a valid license file. And for connection type is a Microsoft System Center Virtual Machine Manager. Connection address is nyc-hyp-1.workspacelab.com. Username workspacelab. Oops. Workspacelab /SCV MMA admin. Password 1. Connection name Hyper-V. Verify that for the create virtual machines using options, select Studio Tools. Oh, it says Studio Tools Machine Creation Services, but here it says Citrix Provisioning Tools, so we'll leave that. Click Next. Storage management. Select a cluster, click Browse. This is our cluster, click OK. We're going to use storage local to the hypervisor because we're doing it in a lab environment, but yeah, normally you would have like something distributed that's saying instead of the actual storage that's on the hypervisor itself. Because that wouldn't really be scalable. Not as scalable. Storage selection page, select local storage on NYC HYP101, and we're going to check OS, and we don't have an option here for personal vdisk like it's showing in the lab guide. It says to check OS, personal vdisk, and temporary. We'll just do temporary. Let's see, site setup, storage selection. Local storage is going to be adequate. Okay, so yeah, we already did that. Let me go back and just make sure that that wasn't like hidden somewhere. No, it's not hidden. It's just not available. Okay, resource name. Name for these resources. Internal. Select one of our networks. Select the lab network checkbox. Click Next. Verify that AppDNA and AppV publishing are cleared and click Next. They're not in scope. Summary page. Verify configuration information is correct. So let's just go back through here. Looks good. All the databases are going to be set up on a single host because we're just doing proof of concept right now. BDC, delivery controller. Yes. Looks good. Local storage. Okay. Finish. And it says it's going to take a couple more minutes. Takeaways. If you have sysadmin permissions to use SQL, let Citrix Studio create the databases automatically. The default administrator account that we're using has the required permissions to create the databases. And then it says, pointing to the Citrix license server will enumerate all licenses installed on that server automatically. The configuration wizard can deploy a fully functional site with an easy-to-follow wizard. I agree, that was pretty easy. Additional configurations connections can be added later using Citrix Studio, which I assume is going to have us do. And then, so option 2 is setting up the site via PowerShell, but I'm not going to go through that. Most people are probably going to use that wizard unless they have some kind of custom configuration. Let's see. I think we're on to 2.3 now. Yep. So 2.3 using the Citrix Licensing Manager. So now that the site has been configured and created, we have to review the Citrix License Manager console to review existing license usage and configuration settings that are used to manage the license server. So the next one we're going to connect to is our license server, which we can actually do that now. So it's NYC FSR 001. Should also be running. And then we're going to have to wait until... Probably have to wait until this is complete. Let's see. We're going to start the Citrix Licensing Manager. Better give it some time to finish up here. Okay, so it looks like Citrix Studio is happy right now. Let's flip over to our thing here. I'm gonna ignore the security certificate warning. And we're logging in. So this must be the Citrix Management Console, or an example of a Citrix Management Console interface. Okay, so from within the Citrix License Manager console dashboard, select the Install Licenses tab. Two options to upload licenses. We are going to use the license access code. Let's see. Oh, we're going to use the downloaded license file, probably from our resources. Choose file. Yep, and then we're going to dive to resources license and select the CCA-V lab training file. Click open, click import. So it looks like somebody has already imported the licenses. So let's review the new installed license details at the bottom of the page. Doesn't say anything. Yeah, it looks like we've already got licenses installed, so we actually didn't need to do that. Just, yeah, the lab seems to be configured a little bit differently than what we were expecting. So we should have a CCA-V premium. Yep. User evaluation licenses and device evaluation licenses. Good deal. We got 5 of those that are in use. Review Citrix Licensing Manager console information. So we're going to go to dashboard. Okay, yeah. So that's exactly what we just did. So yeah, we're just previewing and making sure the licenses are actually available. Select this to expand the license information, which includes the customer success services date, license type, and the expiration date of the license that's in use. I actually don't understand what the customer success services thing is. I'll have to do some more research on that. So it says that now it wants us to connect back to the VDC. We're still connected. And we're gonna go to the licensing node in Studio and perform a refresh. I'm assuming this is to update Studio with the licenses that we just uploaded, but they were already uploaded, so that's not really necessary. Then it wants us to switch back to the license server. Go to settings. And we're going to add a new user administrator to allow for additional license server administration. And we're going to do, the role is going to be administrator. The username is going to be workspace lab /HD admin. Change not saved. The user does not exist. What do you mean? Let me see if we need to extend our time. We got 9 minutes left. 9 minutes left to fix this shit. Let's see. AD. So domain controller NYC ADS001. Okay, let's see if we can connect to that real quick and just see if we've got the ability to create a account for this. It'd be really funny if this is actually just a test to like make sure you know how to do shit in Windows. throw a little curveball every now and then. Yeah, we need to create a new user in here. And this is going to be hdadmin. Looks like I need to brush up on my Windows administration skills, because this is not... I'm slipping. Alright. We good now? We good? Alright. Let's see if we can do it again. Close this. Yeah, we good. At least we're getting the repetition and having to try and go through this over and over again. There we go. All right. We can create users in our domain. Thank God. Wow. Okay. So we got it. Use pencil icon, and we're gonna make sure. Okay, it's just saying like we can change the role if we want to, but we don't want to. All right. So we're gonna go back to the server configuration tab. Here, server configuration, check the ports. Looks good, 2700, 7279, and 8083. Do not change any port settings. Check the license server version option at the top of the licensing manager console. You can review the current version build. You can review the host name and networking information here. Now we can close it. And key takeaways: licensing manager is now portal for reviewing license server statistics. It should be used in place of the previous Citrix license administration manager console. Okay. And that is the end of the lab. So that was it. We deployed the DC using the GUI. We configured a couple of the initial services, the core services that were needed, minus storefront and the SQL databases, because we chose to provision those on other hosts. And we got our licensing up, made sure our licenses were imported, and created a user to manage the licenses that's not like the default admin user. And that's it. That's all it took to deploy site. We had a few issues to fix. We didn't have the account created that they were referencing. We didn't have the what else went wrong? Yeah, we didn't have that user account created on the domain, and we had some issues with the DC host not saying it was compatible. Saying the host OS was not compatible with the 2203 LTSR. But other than that, looking good. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next module.